This episode is brought to you by the Thrive Tribe. Check it out at chasingbrighter.com/Thrive Tribe. Hi, welcome. Today's episode, we are talking about our favorite form of feel good fun reading. Reading isn't just for learning or self improvement, although we love a good personal development book around here. But it can also be a playful escape, a chance to laugh, cry, dream, and lose yourself in someone else's story for a little while. It's also a great stress reliever. That's another important thing. And our month of April has really been focused on fun and creativity and hobbies. And definitely one of Jess and I's hobbies is reading. And so, what we wanted to do, especially with summer just around the corner, we thought we would share what we've read so far, how our reading is going, maybe even what are some things we have on our list for the summer. And let's get into it. You know what? I looked around just for podcasts and our research for this episode. Mhm. And what I thought was interesting is most people drop what's happening so far in July, which is like knee deep in summer. And I like that we are dropping this in the kind of mid-spring, early summer timeframe where we're starting to think about summer reads and maybe we all have a little more time on that. And so hopefully you can walk away with some great ideas on some books you want to be picking up. Yeah, and just sharing, I was sharing what I've read in 2025 so far. And these are books that just brought me comfort. I just chose books that are pure pleasure. And whether you're already a book lover or just looking to fall back into your love of reading, we have something for you. And like you were
Yes.
saying, especially with summer around the corner. So let's explore the joy between the pages. First, I wanted to talk about how you and I get our books, how we ingest books.
Yes. I think that's a great topic. I listen to most of my books. I also read the physical format, but most of the time I'm on the go. And so I absolutely love Audible and Libby. So Audible, we will send a link in our show notes how you can sign up with a discount for Audible if you don't have an Audible subscription yet. Also Libby, which is the library's version of Audible. You can get
Mhm.
free books. And I don't know about you, but I have a bunch of holds. Our Chicago library, by the way, just sent an email out starting in May. They're changing their policy on books, and you can only put 5 things on hold, 3 audiobooks on hold at any given time, which is crazy
Mhm.
because I have so many things on hold, and it's like Christmas when they come available because in
Yeah.
the library, the good books are in high demand.
Yeah, and there are also other ways to get audiobooks are LibriVox. Have you heard of LibriVox? It's an app where people read the books. So you can get audio versions of books, but they're
Oh.
not like professional actors or anything. It's just you and I could record an audio file and post it. I
No,
used to
that's
do
interesting
that.
because
Yeah.
also YouTube has
Yes.
that as well.
Yeah.
One of the podcasts I was listening to, they are reading the book to you. It's a Patreon. You can spend $3 and listen to their book that they will read to you.
Yes. Yeah. And also, if you have a Spotify membership, you have access to audiobooks. I haven't done it. You did it. Haven't you done
Yes,
it?
I do it.
But
Yeah, it's
once you
14 hours
yeah.
of listening a month,
Okay.
and then you can
Yeah.
buy extra for credits. What I've done with that is especially it's a great way to complement if you have a Spotify account and you have the physical book to go back and forth.
Yes, and it's not like a full library. Aren't some of the books there for sometimes a short amount of time on Spotify?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how it works, Jess.
Yes.
It is not every book. It's some popular books, some not
Mhm.
popular books.
Yes.
Some are free, some are premium. Like you're saying, sometimes they're available, some are not. I
Yes.
haven't like dove into it too much, but it seems like the super popular bestsellers happening literally right now are not usually available. It's like the second.
And I end up something else to think about with Audible. I know a lot of people are not getting the full perks of their Audible membership. So I pay $14.99 a month for Audible. Is that what you pay for so many credits a
Yes.
month?
Yep.
And there are different packages. But anyways, if
Mhm.
you look and you explore on your Audible app, there are a lot of books that are free.
Yes.
There are podcasts, there are short novellas,
Yes.
and there are books you can just go look under genre. So I'm going to be talking a lot about contemporary romance today. So you could just look under contemporary romance under Audible Plus because I have a paid membership and I have access to a whole bunch of free books. And they get you because a lot of them are part of a series. So you'll read a book for free as part of a series, and then you'll want to read the rest of them and obviously have to pay. So that's how we get audiobooks. The way that we also get books, I am a member of Book of the Month Club, which I've talked about on previous episodes that my husband has purchased for me. And Book of the Month is committed to celebrating and championing emerging authors. So they have their editors read so many books. Their picks are so great. So even if you go to Book of the Month Club just to see what their picks are, they do the legwork for you. And a lot of times, if you are a member, you get early access to books. And they do have audio formats. So I started out with hardback, but it's hard for me. I'm on the go so much to be carrying a giant book around. And so I've been doing their audiobooks. And then also I have a Kindle, and that's where I read a lot of my books. They're listening or going through my e-reader. And Kindle has something that I can't think of what it's called now. I lost my mind. Where I pay, like I have a Kindle membership.
Kindle Unlimited.
Kindle Unlimited, thank you. And for Kindle Unlimited, you have access to their library of books at no cost. You can have so many books out at a time. So I usually do Kindle Unlimited, and that's where I get a lot of my books too.
And I read a lot of book reviews as well.
Mhm.
And one of the key places to get feedback is through Goodreads, which is an online database of books and reviews and rankings and ratings. The one thing I love about Goodreads is, and I don't know how much you use it, Jess, but in the app, there is this, it's cool, but there's a book scanner. So if you can turn on your camera and it'll scan the book. So when I go to, if I'm traveling, I always stop in a bookstore in the airport. And whatever books they have out, I will scan them on Goodreads and it'll
Mhm.
pop up to tell me the rating. So I know if it's a good one or bad one. And then I add it to my queue so I know I like it.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that. I've been doing a lot more asking around too with friends and family on book
Yeah.
recommendations. And you start to learn who likes stuff, who doesn't. But sometimes it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, I
Uh,
love that.
yeah.
Like we're
Um,
talking about connection and talking to people. And
yes.
you and Teresa and I all read similar books and like the same kind of books. And so we have a little text loop between Kelly and our friend Teresa. When any of us read a good book, we'll just text the other one, hey, check out this book. And then at Pilates, there is my friend Kim, they're the owner, and she and I read the same kind of self-help genre, same stuff. So we give each other recommendations. And so I love that, just like asking others, right? And then getting to know, wow,
Yes.
so and I are definitely reading like the same books that we like.
Yeah.
I like that. And then a final place where I get, so Kindle Unlimited creates an algorithm for me. And so when I go to that little library, it will recommend books based on my recommendation. So a lot of times if I have a favorite book, I'll go to Amazon, I'll look up the book and it will say people who like that like this.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'll like that. And then finally for me, I love Costco Connection. Costco Connection is the magazine for Costco members, and they always have really great book picks. And I actually just will grab the Costco magazine and tear those pages out and take pictures or immediately look up the book and add them to my queue. But I'm sure same for you, Kelly. I don't need to be looking for more books to read because my list of books I want to read is already so exhaustive and long. But if you're like, where do you guys get books from? Those are our ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get into it, Jess. Let's start talking about some of the books we've read this year that we're loving.
Yes. So around September, October, I went to my little Kindle Unlimited and I just started I wanted like witchy series. I do this every fall. And so I read the book, The Ex Hex. And then I found out, oh, it's part of a trilogy, The Ex Hex, The Kiss Curse, and The Wedding Wish. And it's interesting because I was looking this up and I totally geeked out because it's really written by Rachel Hawkins,
I
but
didn't
it's
know
under
that.
the pen name Aaron Sterling. And Aaron Sterling wrote the huge book that came out, The Wife Upstairs. And so she wrote The Wife Upstairs, but it wasn't going to be published for a long time. So in the meantime, she wrote The Ex Hex, and her publisher when they wanted to promote The Wife Upstairs, they wanted it to be her first novel. They were promoting it. This is this woman's first modern Jane Eyre book. It was her first modern book. And so she had to publish it under a pen name because her original published date of the other book. Anyways, I thought that was weird.
Well, I think it's interesting too, because with Rachel Hawkins, I'm not a huge fan because I don't like psychological thrillers that much.
Yeah.
And I should say that much. I like to read them one time, but Rachel Hawkins is, to me, one of the more prolific psychological thrillers writers.
Yeah.
She wrote Girl on the Train, in case anybody knows.
Yes.
So it makes sense to do a pen name because otherwise, if
Yeah.
people see you, they're going to think that's the same genre.
And that's like why her publisher, because when she
Yeah.
was writing other books, they were like, this is her new book. And so they didn't want Ex Hex to be like, wait, she's already doing different new books. But anyways, so I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun read. And so if you want to read something kind of magical and modern day, cute little trilogy.
The Ex Hex has long been on my list, but I haven't read it. I love that it's a trilogy. I'm mixed feelings about some books in trilogies where it's like I read the first one and I'm like, oh, the next ones are all going to be the same, versus you read one and you want to know more and you just keep consuming that same topic or characters to see where they end up.
I would say with series and contemporary romance, a lot of times it's everybody coupling up. And I like that. I need that sometimes. Like we talk about like brain candy. Like I need it to follow a blueprint and to all be the same and have a happily ever after sometimes, because that's soothing to me because life is stressful and crazy. So sometimes I need to throw in there like little books that have a tight little ending. And even though you know how the next books are going to be, does that make sense? It's like soothing to me.
It is, but I find some of the romance, I totally agree with you, but I find some of the romance genres, because I was looking, when I recently read one of my favorite, what did you call it? Brain candy?
Yeah.
One of my favorite brain candy books this year was The Paradise Problem from Christine Warren.
I read that.
It's so good. It's definitely in the spicy genre. And when I was looking, so Goodreads has challenges, and then it'll tell you what books you need to read to get a challenge. It's just all online gamifications. And so a lot of the books I noticed were like multiple titles, multiple books in the series, but each book was like a completely different character. It was like the topic of maybe flight attendants or something. And then it would be different stories about different flight attendants. So it was like the flight attendant series or whatever. And it was like, that's not what I want. I want one person that keeps going, which a lot of them don't have. But that's how I found The Paradise Problem. And I liked it. And so I'm okay with the kind of one and dones on the romance.
No, that one was fun. And also the Paradise Problem was book of the month.
Oh, yeah?
So I'll look at book of the month, and sometimes I'll get like a multiple books from it, or I'll see if I can get it somewhere else, if that makes sense. So I got that one because I used my Audible credit for it, but I've been loving their recommendations. And so anyway, that was definitely
cool.
I was like reading book of the month, and there were like New York Times bestsellers and like more literary, and I just downloaded Paradise Problem. Like I didn't read that much about it. I was like, what?
Yeah. I was like,
I didn't really pay attention that it was a spicy romance as well. I'm just clicking to put books on my list. Especially like when you and Teresa recommend a book, like I see on your list, The Berry Pickers. I like bought the book. You told me to get it and I got it, and I have no idea what it's going to be about. So sometimes I do that too. Like I just trust a recommendation, and then I'm pleasantly surprised. So I saw that you have that on there, and that's my next read. But what about The Berry Pickers did you love?
So I have to say, if you asked me what is your favorite book that you have read so far in 2025, it would be The Berry Pickers.
Yeah.
And I was so drawn into it from the beginning. It is about a Native American family who are essentially migrant workers in Maine. And this happens very early in the book, but their youngest child is abducted. She disappears and they don't know what happens to her. And it's this really fascinating story. And it takes you through decades of the lives of everybody and how this all played out. And it's great because it's fiction. So I keep reminding myself. The other thing is just, again, the whole idea of it, I thought early on, it really talked through in some ways, what brings to the surface is just the insignificant of the minority population
Yeah.
in anything that happens,
Yeah. Yeah.
but also them not being, they were Canadians that were working in Maine. So just
Mhm.
that whole part, they weren't American. So it was
Yeah.
different. Anyway, it's really cool. I liked it. I also really love, sometimes I love like a country setting. I love an outdoorsy kind of
Yeah.
setting and living off the land and that part. So that part really talked to me. Still is very unappealing. The cover
Yeah.
itself is unappealing.
Mhm.
And I picked it up because one of my new sources for book recommendations is the art teacher at Mitchell, where Becca goes to school,
Mhm.
Anne Grimm, who I absolutely love. And she is our age and our vibe. And she is an avid reader. In fact, she told me she reads 75 books a year. And
Yeah.
so I have upped the ante on how much books. She's got young kids and she
Yeah.
figures out how to make
I'm
it work
trying.
just like me.
Yes. On
So,
Goodreads, we've talked before, but you can set how many books you want to read a year, and we've did 50. And
yeah.
I have one of my previous neighbors, Brenda. I don't know if you listen to the podcast, but she's on Goodreads, and I want to say she read 150 or 100, and I was like,
Holy
okay, I suck.
cow.
So this year I kept my goal at 50, but I'm shooting for 75. Like I don't
Yeah,
want
me
to
too.
make
Me
it
too.
pressure.
I don't know
Um,
if I changed my goal, but I
but
did want to
and
do that too.
I don't know if I've read any great fiction recently. I kept my list to like fun stuff. And I just want to talk about, I know I'm like nerding out. Like Kelly wrote lists of books, but I had to write a paragraph because I'm like nerding out
No,
on like
I think we just
why I
talk
wrote
about
this.
whatever we,
Yes.
yeah,
So
this is a very
I am
unstructured
obsessed with,
chat.
if you have not heard of Abby Jimenez, her book, Yours Truly, was on Book of the Month. And I found out it was like book 2 of a 3-part series, previously discussing my obsession with series. So I was like, oh, Abby Jimenez. And her book, they were set in Minnesota and they talked about
Mhm.
Nadia's cakes. I look at the back. Okay. So Abby Jimenez was a retail manager in 2007 when she lost her job. And then she founded Nadia Cakes out of her home kitchen. In 2009, she opened her first brick and mortar location of Nadia Cakes in Palmdale, California. I've been there, Kelly. I'm a super nerd. I went to Nadia's Cakes
Oh, that's
and
sweet.
she has a whole gluten-free section of cupcakes. So then I love her even
Oh my
more. In
gosh.
the
Yes,
back
you
corner,
do.
there's a little table of her books. And her cakes are like insane, like on TV cakes, right? Like I think it was like Halloween time. And so the cakes were like insane. And we got cupcakes for everybody and they were very delicious anyway. So then she won the Food Network's Cupcake Wars in
And
2013.
that wasn't enough for her.
No, and she appeared on TLC's Fabulous Cakes, and it wasn't until I didn't put the year. Her first book was 2019.
Okay.
Her family
Yeah.
later moved to suburban Minneapolis, Minnesota, and she went on to open Nadia's Cakes in those areas. But she was telling her children a story, a short story. She went home to write the short story. She scrapped that story and wrote what ended up being the Friend Zone. And so that I read the Friend Zone series, which is the
Mhm.
Friend Zone, the Happy Ever After playlist, and Life's Too Short. And then Part of Your World series, the first book, Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and Just for Summer.
I read Just
And
for Summer.
yes. And what'd you think? Was that where
Mm,
they rented the island? Two friends rented the island?
yeah, yeah, and it's funny
So
because I read it in the summer when we went to Minnesota on a trip.
yes.
Right.
Yes. And mental health is really important to her. So a lot of times, like in Yours Truly, the guy had like panic disorder. Like a lot of times there's someone grappling with a
Hmm,
physical or
I
mental
like that.
illness that she weaves in. And then I can't wait. Say You'll Remember series was just launched. And so the new book, Say You'll Remember Me, is out. And then next year, The Night We Meet, part of that series. So, anyways, I
Do
just thought that was
you
sorry, go ahead.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you're talking about it this way. And all like a lot in my research, I listened to all these other book review podcasts, and
Yeah.
like Abby Jimenez was in all of them. She is
Yes.
definitely
Love it.
one of the
Yes.
really popular writers right now for like our vibe of women.
Yes.
My question to you is for all of those books, because again, remember what I said? I don't like to read like the same, it's like the same thing. Like it's like this recipe, right? Make a twist of a couple or a person and their issues and their career and all these things, and you put it together and you get a book. How do you think her books have changed over that time that you've read them?
So I feel like there is the recipe of a romance where they get together, something happens, they break up, and then they get back together. Would you say
Okay.
that's the
Mhm.
recipe? I think
That's
her
true.
books are layered, like I'm saying, with more, I want to say more kind of complicated characters. Does that make
Okay.
sense? Like
Yes.
I said,
Yeah.
he had panic disorder. This person is grieving the loss of someone. This person, like weaving in, the one person had this debilitating physical illness. Just different stuff like that. So I love that. Yours truly was the first one I read. So I guess I would say a little more like when we talk about some of the books I read, which I love. Like I throw in Carolyn Brown if you want to read like a little cowboy romance. Like Carolyn Brown's books are fun, but very simple. Like very simple,
Mhm.
not really getting into the characters too much. So I would
Mhm.
say Abby Jimenez just adds more layer to her characters,
Okay, I like that.
more of a meaty read, maybe.
I think that's why I liked the Paradise Problem a little bit because there's a little bit more meat to the
Yeah.
characters, and I think
Mhm.
the books that have a deeper character
Yeah.
component plus a romance, I really do
Yeah.
enjoy more
Yeah.
because I normally don't read a lot of romance, and I normally don't read these
Mhm.
fun type of books.
I
We
do.
are
And
talking about
yes,
fun, but I don't read fun
yes.
books all the time. Yeah.
Because I need a break as I'm a mental health therapist. I specialize in PTSD. My day-to-day is pretty heavy. And so for me, a lot of times books are an escape. So sometimes I need to read 2 to 3 fluffs and then something meaty and then something like The Berry Picker, the 2 to 3 fluffs and then something heavy. I would love to hear the rest of your list for great
Yeah.
fiction.
Oh, my second favorite book, and I debated on if it was gonna be my favorite or not, but I have to say, like, because The Berry Pickers drew me to tears at the end in a way that, like, it was just such a moving book. I absolutely loved it. All the Colors of the Dark, another flipping amazing book. I'm very grateful to have read those 2 books already this year because I think they're both super amazing and will stay with me for a long time.
Yeah.
Both of those have definitely moved up my list of, like, best books I've ever read, and I happened to read them both in the last couple months, so that's pretty awesome. All of the Colors of the Dark is great. You know what, Ryan, did you read The Lincoln Highway at all? By Immortals, who also wrote The Gentleman from Moscow, which is amazing book and now a series on Hulu, which was awesome. But All of the Colors of the Dark, it's long book, but it's an amazing drama. The
Mhm.
other thing that was cool about that book, Jess, is it's not it's a fictional town, but it's set in, like, a Eastern Missouri, Western Kansas, and so they
Yeah.
throw in references to both, which was cool, so it helps me identify. I think that's the other part with books where it, like, resonates with you or certain things you really identify with.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool book. It just is a story about one guy who it's just fascinating, and I don't even some of these I don't like to tell people because I want you to read it and listen to it.
Yeah.
Our Evenings is written by Alan Hollings, who is an incredible writer. It was on my list for a long time. It came up on my Libby, and I was like, fine, I'll read it. It's set in Britain in the 50s, and it's about a young boy who's in boarding school, but he lives in the town, and his mom sends him to the boarding school for like day school, but it's all these wealthy people, and he
Yeah.
is Indian. Or no, he's not Indian. He is Burmese,
Okay.
and how he adapts to that and lives in this world, and then how his life builds out literally until like modern day and stuff. So
Yeah.
I love that. I don't know if those are called like epic sagas, but I do starting young, ending old kind of situation because the Berry
Yeah.
Pickers is that way.
Yeah.
Colors of the Dark is the same. So maybe that's what I'm leaning into is this like somebody's life. The writing was just incredible. I don't know how to describe it, but sometimes when you read something and it paints the picture so vividly in your mind, it's you're there. And so that book is that. And I really appreciate really great writers. It was a book that was really hard for me to get into, and I did have to power through, but I'm really grateful I did because there's a lot of very like literary significance to the book.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. We didn't put that on there, but is that more similar to like the Covenant of Water type
Yeah,
book?
and
Yeah,
it's called Our Evenings. I thought that is an interesting title. A lot of the book ends up being there's a lot happening, but yet
yeah,
from the 50s and the 60s, the evenings were this
yeah,
time when everybody came together, the adults poured themselves a drink of
yeah,
some like dark liquid, and they would just sit and smoke and talk. And that was the vibe of the whole thing, and it makes you
Yeah.
wanna go back to watching
Yeah.
Mad Men or something.
Yeah. Which I know.
The other thing I was gonna mention, I know speaking of fun, we talked about romance, but the
Mhm.
other genre, Jess, that I happen to and this
Yeah.
is really weird, is actually young adult sci-fi
Yes.
slash
Mhm.
fantasy.
Yeah.
So Legendborn,
Okay.
one of the things I really tried to do is be more intentional about some of the authors. And
Yeah.
Legendborn is written by a young African American author, and it's a
Mhm.
young adult African American characters
Yeah.
who are going to an all African American prep school that's attached to a university. And it's a really great fictional
Yeah.
fantasy story. And it's one of a couple different, it's a series, but I'm just stopping there. It was very long. Felt like it was
Yeah.
long.
How many books are there?
I have to look it up.
Oh, okay.
But I really did like that one. The author from I did paperback mixed with Audible. Just the author was the same person who narrated what was the one book club book we read that was a young adult African American? It's not The Concrete Rose. What was the first one?
Children of Blood and Bone?
Angie Scott, Angie Thomas, Angie
Oh, yes, The Hate You Give?
The Hate You Give. Yeah, it was the same narrator. So
Oh.
definitely gave off that vibe.
I was talking to mom, and I don't know if it was Legend Board series. She was reading some fantasy series. Mom was 15 books in that series. And so mom and I were talking about what do you like in a series? I would say 5 or less.
I
But like you
agree.
said, yeah.
I'm at least a
Exhausting.
solid 3.
Yeah, definitely.
So Legendborn has 3.
Okay.
Legendborn, Bloodmarked, and Oathbound.
Okay.
And they're by Tracy Dion, and I loved them. I thought they're really
Yeah.
good. They have a lot of good depth of character. And again, just trying to really be a little more inclusive in my reading too, in terms of
Yeah.
reading different genres, different types of authors. In fact, drawing parallels to that, I read because it was on my challenge to read a book from about more celebrating African American Heritage Month. And so I read Medgar and Murley, and I just finished it. And it was written by Joy Reid, who's on MSNBC, The Readout. And it was a great
Yeah.
historical book about Medgar Evers and his wife Murley. And I know how it didn't end, it was in the middle
Right.
when he was assassinated, but just listening to the civil rights time. And
Yeah.
so I think part of the whole for me with books is that I also like to learn something. And so that was a
Yeah.
big part.
And I think for me, a book is escapism, learning something new, putting yourself in someone else's shoes. It's such a great way to learn compassion
Yeah.
and hear someone else's story. What's the book The Change about?
So the change, I picked it up because it was on Jenna's book list.
Okay.
And it was cool because it was about women in a way that was they lived in a neighborhood and they all got to know each other and they came
Mhm.
together. But it was about them bringing down to me, I had mixed feelings about the story. It's definitely it was a really cool, like, sci-fi fantasy vibe to it, but it was about, like, women our age who, like, get together and they, like, realize there's a couple guys who are just like, the world is run by men and how they navigate that. How
Yeah.
maybe some of them, their spouses are more dominant, some of them, their spouses are partnership. And the change was about how they, I feel like, collectively together became more powerful and they changed. And
Yeah.
it was like Desperate Housewives.
Yeah.
It was like a
Yeah.
newer book on that.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that book?
I have not heard of that book. What I did wait, no, we're gonna go to thrillers later, so no. And then what was, your final book on that?
Oh,
On
Electric
yeah.
Kingdom.
Okay.
It's a young adult, like, sci-fi, like, I love a post-apocalyptic. And
Yeah.
so this was funny story is I grabbed that book. I actually really liked the book. It was, Wes literally he needed to check a book out from the library, and I was like, "Here." We literally just grabbed it off the shelf. It was like staff
Yeah.
pick on
Yeah.
the sticker.
Yeah.
So that was good. And I think again, I try to mix up my genres a lot, and I have a hard time getting into books in the beginning. That one I
Yeah.
really liked. I love The
Yeah.
World Has Ended and where we have to survive somewhat.
So
I can love any of those.
Along those, I think of the books I want to talk about, similar to that vein. Like, I love Divergent series. You read those Divergent series?
Yes,
I
yes.
loved Hunger Games. Along that same vein, Kelly, the Fourth Wing series, which I don't know if it's on your list or not. What's so crazy is it popped up on my Kindle Unlimited. So it's been there for a while. I started reading it. What's crazy is Mel Robbins started talking about it now. So Mel Robbins is saying it, and she was saying the Audible, which I'm reading the e-reader version, the performance, I guess, on the Audible, I think they have different voices, all kinds of stuff. So I think the audiobook is probably incredibly entertaining. But this is the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. It's a fantasy romance novel series that follows Violet Sorrengail as she's forced to become a dragon rider at the brutal, and I don't know how to say it because I'm not listening to the Audible book, so I'm saying Basgiath War College. And like the books Divergent and Hunger Games, it's like a small girl that everybody underestimates who becomes the hero. It is romance, like a little spicy. I don't feel like it's like crazy spicy, but the books are Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm. And what is so crazy, if I have the dates right, the book was released in like August 2022, blew up on TikTok's BookTok. Immediately by October, optioned for a Netflix series. And it just blew up and it's crazy. And the fourth book, Onyx Storm, I think just came out 2024. And so I am reading it where like I stayed up until 3 in the morning the other night and I didn't notice. And I looked at the clock and I was so mad at myself for doing that. But I am like super into this series right now. It's really fun. Fantasy, dragons, a lot of fun. A lot of fun. You muted yourself. You muted.
Jess, this book was a DNF for me. Did not finish.
Really?
Yes. I think I got a little bit into it and I just couldn't get into it. And so I quit. And I know that they are so wildly popular. On Goodreads, it's like 3 million ratings or reviews, which is really
Wow.
unheard of. That's like Harry
Yeah.
Potter level. I
Yeah.
know they are wildly popular, and it does make me feel like there's something wrong with me. What
Were
I
you
find
listening
fascinating
or reading it?
listening.
And
Do you think
was
I
it
would like it better if I was
performance?
reading? I just felt like it was so, like, moody teen
Okay.
oriented in a
So
way that I was
here's
like,
yeah, so
"Ugh."
here's my issue sometimes with Audible is I like do you do that when you flip back and forth? And let's say I start reading a book and I'm reading it myself on Kindle and I have the voices in my head and how they are and whatever. And then I'm like driving a lot and I'm like, I want to download the audio book because I want to hear it. And then they are not the voices. They are
Yes.
pronouncing the names different. And I'm like, screw this. So sometimes I do think it matters, like reading versus audio
I think
format.
that's
And
an
you might
excellent
like it
point,
if you
excellent
had
point.
Violet's voice in your head. Because
Yes.
I didn't get Moody Teen when I was reading it. So that's interesting.
I'm sure it's still equally
Yeah.
popular also on
Yeah.
Audible, and that I find it so interesting where, like, different books you read at different times and how they just resonate with you more. So
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
attempt it again at some point, but
Yeah.
it just hasn't stuck with me.
And I want to shift. I'll just say my thriller, which I haven't read yet, but I bought the series for Gabby and I to read, is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. It is a young adult thriller. She saw it all over TikTok. I bought it for her about this year's for her, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you got it for me because it was on TikTok and I really want to watch it." What do you have for what do
I
you
would
have for
say
thrillers?
I absolutely love mysteries and thrillers. It's probably
Yeah.
one of my favorite genres, but because I've read so much of them, I have a hard time finding ones that
Ones
I
that you
want to
enjoy.
read. But Conclave by Robert Harris came
Yeah.
out. I do love Robert Harris.
It's on
He
my
writes some
list.
really great spy novels, and I've read a couple of his books. I have a couple in my queue. Conclave is because of the movie that had come out, which is
Yeah.
such perfect timing since
Yeah.
Pope Francis has passed. May he rest in peace.
Right.
This book was amazing. I loved it.
Yeah.
It's short, it's an easy read. If you love to read a book and then watch a movie, I
Yeah.
highly recommend Conclave. Did you read it? I forget.
No, I haven't yet.
It's really good because I it's one of those where everyone who's listening to this, if you like a good thriller especially like political sci-fi or
Yeah.
political and spy novel
Yeah.
oriented. This is so good. It's a short one, and I can't tell you why it's good because it
Yeah.
ruins the whole thing. Good.
I know we could go on forever. I know we got to start winding down this episode. My last author, I'll just throw out there for fun and enjoyment, Lucy Score. I loved the Knock 'em Out series. Again, I'm obsessed with little contemporary romance for fun. The books are Things We Never Got Over, which I know you've seen that book cover. It's blue with white daisies on it. It's a very popular cover. Things We Hide from the Light and Things We Left Behind. I also bought the first book, Dead Guy Next Door, which is her Riley Thorne series. Very popular, but I have not started that series. What are some last couple books you want to tell our listeners about?
So I would say that I read Frozen River, which a lot of people have read, which is a historical fiction,
Yeah.
whatever. And because of my Audible membership, it recommended Agent 350, which is
Mhm.
a short read. And so one of the things I think,
Yeah.
just in summing up what we were talking about today, because I know we could go on and on for books, is and maybe we'll talk about we usually talk about books in our mom talk, so maybe we can also talk about in an upcoming
Yeah.
mom talk what we're going to be
Right.
reading over the summer. But
Superwoman Diaries. Say that again. It's Superwoman Diaries.
one of the things that we always talk about in the Superwoman Diaries is books we're reading. So we definitely want to bring that up, especially with summer on the horizon here, and also what we're currently reading. But Audible has short stories, and
Yeah.
they are super fun. Listen, they
Yeah.
usually are even produced by famous actors, get a lot of great different voices. And so even if you don't like to read or you don't like to get yourself into a long book, I find a lot of these short ones extremely
Mhm.
rewarding. Agent 355 was about a woman in the Revolutionary War, and there's like a spy factor to it. But it was it was like 2 hours. That was it. It was a
Yeah, I
2 hour
love
listen.
those. I love
Yeah.
those as well. There you have it, guys. A few. Kelly and I wanted to keep going. Those were just a few of our favorite playful and feel good reads for 2025. Whether you pick one of these titles or head off to explore your own reading rabbit hole, we hope this episode reminds you that reading can be a form of joy, escape, and reconnection for yourself.
So make a cozy moment for yourself for a chapter or two. Swap book recs with friends. Start a little book club just for some fun. Do what lights you up.
Yeah, just keep chasing those brighter moments, one book, one page, one playful joy at a time.
Thanks for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear our latest episodes as soon as they drop.
If you loved today's episode, share with a friend. Find us on Instagram, Facebook at Chasing Brighter, or check out our blog at chasingbrighter.com and follow us. If you want to know more about Kelly and I, read our blogs, find more tips, tools, and resources, check that out at chasingbrighter.com. Thanks. Remember, your best life is just a listen away.